Cliff Danley up on stage. There's a reason I've asked these two gentlemen to come up here, and I'm just going to listen, because I think all that needs to be said about this, you're going to hear from them. And you're probably tired of hearing from me anyway. But 2006?
When they came in the program?
When you walked down 7th Avenue.
That would be April 18th, 2005.
Wow.
Approximately 6 o'clock.
How do you know all of this?
It's painfully engraved in my heart.
Okay. And you walked in, as you were walking down 7th Avenue.
Right.
You walked in where?
I walked in through these north doors over here. Actually, I'd just been did a stroll up Rose Lane with an unfortunate encounter with Phoenix's finest. Grateful to be released from the handcuffs and to be making my way up to Rose Lane or to 7th Avenue. And I mean, it's really surreal to me to just try to recapture the whole thing, but knowing that I just played my last card on trying to fix my own problems and having this incredibly strange feeling come over me that said, you're done trying to fix your own problems. And in a strange sense of peace, nevertheless, but a sense of panic because I had wore out my welcome everywhere. And that's why I was wandering the streets. I'd already been in another ministry, and I didn't do well there. I was a mess. I can't even begin to tell you. I'm going to try to recapture that. But anyway,
It was a mess.
Yes. I made it up into the parking lot, and then I just made it to these doors, and the thing, it was a Monday, April 18th, 2005. And I'm thinking, if there's just anybody here, I could use a break. Just one person. The parking lot is completely bare. But I walk in those doors, and I caught a break, and it's a big one.
I happened to be preparing for a Bible study later that evening, which I used to hold right over in the coffee shop area, and Cliff comes walking in, and I think at first I was tuning a guitar, I think. I didn't take a good look, and I said, "Are you here for higher ground?" And he said, "What's higher ground?" I said, "It's a singles Bible study." He says, "Yeah, I'm here for higher ground." And it took me about 30 seconds to realize as I looked up and saw him, he was wearing a white shirt, but it didn't look as clean as that one. It was wrinkly and dirty, and I could tell there was just something a little bit unique. And you know, as a church, we get lots of homeless people coming in, and I always pray and that I would not tire and grow weary and ignore or miss an opportunity. And so Cliff stayed for Bible study.
Yeah, I do remember asking if you had time to hear a story of a desperate man.
I remember that.
And then I remember sitting in that little lounge, and you actually were doing some teaching on Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and I was like, wow, I really actually know a little bit about this guy, but I was embarrassed to actually say it because of the choices I made and the things I walked away from.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed by that. But after the Bible study, I just started a conversation with Cliff to find out how I could help him, and learned that he was homeless, had no place to go, and I did not feel comfortable just saying, you know, good luck. Hope it turns out. But I didn't know what to do. I knew of the mission. I called a friend of mine, Dave Youngbooth, who is a friend of the Phoenix Rescue Mission as well, also a police officer, and asked him to make some calls. I learned that the mission was full. House of Refuge was full. I drove Cliff to a place down in the slope. That as he was talking to them and interviewing real quick, I took a walk up and down the sidewalk, and my thinking to myself was, you know, if I was homeless, I'd take a bus stop over this place. That was honestly, you know, but I was looking forward to dumping Cliff. I called my wife and said, you know, I'm not going to be home at 9 o'clock. I'll be home late. I apologize. And I'm in Sunny Slope with Cliff, and Cliff comes out and he says, you know, I appreciate all your help. They have a place for me here, but I think I'd take my chances on the streets, and I understand that you've done, you know, everything you can do. Thank you very much. And something just didn't sit well with me, because I wouldn't have stayed there even if I had been at the bottom. And so Cliff and I drove to Denny's at 7th Street in Camelback.
Wow, you remember where? Okay.
Had a
Now,
meal.
that I don't remember about.
Had a meal, and I handed him my cell phone. I said, is there anyone you can call to find a place? And he started making phone calls. Finally, he finds a friend who would give him his couch in Gilbert.
Mind you, now it's getting around 10 o'clock at night, and I know he's a pastor, I know there's a wife on the other end, and the phone call says, yeah, just put it in the microwave.
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing.
Yeah. And I was tired, but I drove Cliff to Gilbert. Now, I drove him because I'd ridden my motorcycle to the office that day. I got the keys to the church van that says Bethany Bible Church alongside of it, and I drove him to this house in Gilbert. Said, God bless you. The whole way out, though, I'm telling him about this place, the Phoenix Rescue Mission. I said, I know it's full tonight, but if you give me a phone call anytime, I will come find you and drive you there and let you meet Steve Camacho and see this place. You want to see this place. And I dropped him off in Gilbert. Now, where did I drop you off at, Cliff?
Well, again, I was down to a few options, and it's amazing. Sometimes unbelievers can be some of the most Christ-like people, but this man was my connections house, and he said, come back in and sleep on the couch.
Dealer. I dropped him off in a church van at his dealer's house.
That's part of the sickness. If I don't really tell him where I'm going.
Cliff withheld that from me for about 18 months.
A long
think
time.
so. I didn't know that until a year and a half later. He tells me that, and I still wanted to hit him.
Yeah. The church van pulling up outside the house. Yeah.
So, but Cliff called me a week later. I think it was another Monday. You just like Mondays. Because I remember what I was busy with. But you were in Mesa at that time?
Yeah, and at this point, I'm not clear.
Yeah, but you were.
I knew you planted a seed.
I went and found him in Mesa, and I drove him to the mission.
Oh, yes, you did. That individual should have been here.
I drove him to the mission and introduced him to Steve. And I remember that day very well. Gave him a long tour. At the end of it, we walked outside the gates toward where I was parked, and Cliff looked at me and he said, I've got to get into this place. That's where it began.
Yeah, that is where it began. I do distinctly remember walking, and of course, this is where Steve Camacho makes a huge impact in my life. But walking around and being shown what's available. And I remember a lot of programs out there are working programs. You have to work and keep a bed, bring home some earnings. And I just said, well, do I have to work? And Steve looked at me and said, no, you just got to get well. That just blew my mind. And I was tired, and I needed a place to go. I was just tired. So, and I remember looking at Drew, and I'm sorry if I'm not loud enough. And I looked at him, and I remember said, are you as blessed about this as I am? And he had water rising in his eyes, and I had a lump in my throat. And I just knew. I just knew. And so, how are we doing on time, Steve?
We're doing good. What's amazing is that's just the very beginning of just a God story. If you notice the slides up front earlier, Amazing Grace, that, again, I keep repeating this, that rescues, saves, and changes and serves. And Cliff is truly a fine example of a transformed life. And he went through the program, he left, he's got some skills, so he went out and did his, he got employed and did that thing. One of the things I think that really positive thing that happened to Cliff, he met this gentleman that's sitting right here, Michael. Michael Lassard. Please stand, Michael. And that would be Reverend Michael Lassard. And like we all need, he pulled him aside and he came alongside him and he said, how would you be interested in a chaplaincy program? And Cliff probably didn't jump at it, but I mean, it was something that he completed that program not too long ago. And Cliff, here a few months back, is now, watch this, the amazing completion of the circle that God does for those that are faithful, is that Cliff came on staff with the Phoenix Rescue Mission as our chaplain here this last year. Would you congratulate him? And it was 5 years ago that he left the mission to pursue all of that I've just said. And he's back to us again. So it is my greatest honor to present this honorary certificate of graduation to Chaplain Clifford Danley. And I'd like to say, it says here, through his faith in Jesus Christ and as a witness of a transformed life, is presented with this award in the highest esteem before God and in the presence of the multitude of witnesses. Ladies and gentlemen, Clifford Danley. Now somebody wanted a picture with me and Drew standing next to each other, so here you go. Have at it.
I was hoping Lord Slowy would get in on this one.
Yeah.
Noel's going to lead us for the final song. The words are going to be on the screen.